Welcome back to season 2 of the Hardscape Huddle. I'm your host, Kyle Staffa. Today we have an exciting show. We have Aiden and Gavin in studio, and Tyler Hoyt from Boise, Idaho, representing Fast Break Digital Media. How are you, Tyler?
Going good, man. Thanks for having me on, guys. You guys look good in the studio, so looking forward to the episode. And yeah, like I said, appreciate you guys having me on.
No, thanks for joining us. I know there's a time difference and all of that. So, what are you about 2 o'clock there or so?
2 o'clock is my preferred time to actually do stuff. So once it hits about four, I'm out of the office.
Yeah, gotcha. Getting ready for coaching basketball, right?
Yes,
You're in
sir.
that season.
Yes, sir.
Good. How's the team doing?
Figuring it out. We're doing all right. It's my my
Okay.
Figure it
tenth
out.
my
All
tenth
right.
year as a coach, so it's we'll get there. We'll get there.
All
We'll say
right,
that
good. Well, we wish you luck. So it
Thank
takes
you
up a lot of time over there.
for sure, for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
And then in studio we have Aiden and Gavin. How are you boys?
How's it going? How's it going? Thanks for
Pretty
having
good.
us on. For the what is
We're
this? Our
back.
third time.
Third time.
Yeah, third time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, you guys hold it down in the studio really well.
we try.
Gavin holds it up. I hold it down.
So thank you for joining us, you guys. Tyler, tell us a little bit about your personal background because I found it very interesting of what you're bringing to the landscape and hardscape industry.
Yeah, so actually, I started this whole thing about 3 years ago. But before then, I grew up in California. You
We
know,
won't hold it against you.
I when you get to Idaho, they don't like that very much. So we kind of keep it a secret, but you change your plates real quick. But anyway, so yeah, grew up in California. I have a master's degree in sports medicine, so I kind of went that route into grad school, played college basketball. So I was kind of in that realm for a long time. Ended up coaching high school basketball after my playing career was done. And then I had a 4-year-old daughter, she's not four. I had a daughter. Now she's four, but when we had her, we wanted to spend more time with her. My wife was working full time as an athletic trainer as well. So I was like, okay, what can I get into to kind of stay home, continue to coach high school basketball where you just don't get paid. It's more of a passion thing, and still making a difference and help people. Right. And so stumbled upon marketing, and how we did that, and it really just started as some Facebook ad stuff and kind of helping people in the industry push their business and get more exposure, and really has turned into and exploded into how can we best help this industry with education and give them what they really need to be successful, whether that's working with us or taking what we give you and just kind of doing it in your own business. Our goal is to help you take that kind of next step in your business and create a life for yourself and for your family, the same kind of life that I wanted to create for my family by getting into this. So if we can help anybody, take that to the next level, that's our ultimate goal.
Yeah, so that's something a little bit
Mm.
more unique. We've had one or two other companies on here that have that do media and different things, but they want to control everything. And I just want to touch base, make sure I'm not off, is you will guide somebody, they could do their own work, or you want to
So
control their website, social media, all of
So it's always better if we take control and kind of take that off your hands. So one of the big things to say is marketing is such a big part of your business and promotion is such a big part of business. How do we take that off of a contractor's hands so they can get all that time back to spend more time in the business and actually growing it, right? And so ultimately, ideal world, we want to be controlling that to a point. We want to be working alongside somebody, right? While we're controlling the assets and running that day-to-day stuff, we're communicating as if we're partners in that venture. Now we have consulted people over the course of 3 years on how to build Facebook ads and how to run, automations and stuff like that as well. So there's a time and place for that. But I'd say 90% of the time we're probably controlling that process while communicating with them and how we can make that better.
why did you choose the landscape construction industry?
Yeah, so people, that's like one of the top questions I get is why this niche, why this industry? The easy answer is that home service industry is big, right? Like there's a lot of potential out there. I felt like the landscape industry was behind in a lot of digital marketing and behind in kind of that scene. I called it the Stone Age 3 years ago, and I was telling people like you're still in the Stone Age doing door knocking and you're still doing newspapers or whatever you guys were doing, and so trying to get them out of that. I felt like there was a lot of potential in there. But I grew up in a machine shop with my dad. My dad owned a machine shop when I was younger. So I gravitate towards just the kind of personality I feel like the contractors are in this space. comfortable with it, as opposed to, and no offense to like roofers or anything, but they're a little more hard, like shelled, right? And so
Yep.
I didn't vibe as well with that kind of personality. And I just think I related really well to the people in the hardscape landscape space. It reminded me a lot of growing up in that machine shop and just having those conversations. I feel like the people in this industry take a ton of pride in their work. They're very creative. They like to create kind of things instead of just doing jobs, right? And so that really was a big factor for me. And to be honest, I tell people I just like to look at the finished product. Like I'd love to look at a nice, paver patio or a nice pool, a nice deck, right? And it appeals to me. And so it's easier to go to work and help people when you're really interested in what they're doing.
I can't walk my dog without seeing that now. Ever since I came into the industry, I always say like we'll go for drives, and when I'm talking about work, I'm like it's funny how you never realize until you are in this industry that a house when it's being built, it starts with a mason pretty much, and it ends with a hardscaper. So either or, it just starts and finishes with us. And it's so funny. I'm like walking the dog now. I'm looking at every little detail. I'm looking at the foundations of the house. I'm
Is
looking
that
at
real
the
stone? Is that manufactured stone?
I
Yeah.
just can't get it out of my head now. And it is crazy. No one realizes when you say like there's always room in this industry, and it's always thriving, and there's always work to be done. There is, because we're always building. It's gonna always start with us. So.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's so much specific, like there's different pockets within it too, right? And so like you said, there's the masonry and there's the carpentry, and like all that stuff falls under the umbrella of what we'll call like outdoor living hardscape, right? And so being able to, all right, you're a pool builder, you're a deck builder, you do paver patios, like there's so much in there, and we can operate all under the same umbrella to create something really cool, and creating some of those networks too. Like I have guys that just do carpentry, and we've created professional networks with another client that does masonry, and it's pretty cool to do that too.
Yeah, it's wild. And that's one of you touched on one of the reasons why I like this, right? I love this industry, is that at the end of the day, even if it's the start of the project, and it's a pool build with an outdoor oasis, is at the end of the day 1, day 30, or day 65, you get to see what you've accomplished so far, and then look at the plan and see where you're yet to go for this. And it's just interesting in that. Let's talk a little bit more about your marketing and your marketing strategies. And I think the Hardscape Huddle and Staff of Stone as a collaboration can help fast break digital media in general, because this pertains to pretty much every single contractor that we deal with on a daily. There's only one or two contractors that are actively that we deal with actively, that are using. I don't think anybody's using AI. Is that right, Aiden or Gavin?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone is. They're definitely working with some type of partner, but I don't believe AI.
Right.
You see the
So
stereotypical
most
stuff.
of our guys, I think we deal with on average about 200 to 300 on the daily, but I know that there's like 700 or so in our database that are potential leads for you. Obviously, Boise, Idaho, with today's technology, is not too far away. Correct? You deal with guys in Jersey, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I actually joke around a lot when people ask me, and I don't have a single client in Boise, Idaho. So I don't have anybody in my home state that I work with. Most of my clients are East Coast, to be honest with you, which is unfortunate because I don't like to get up that early, but that's okay. So most of them are East Coast. I have a few West Coast, but yeah, nobody in my home state, which I'm trying to give deals to people to get an Idaho client. But
When someone hears this in Idaho, please.
somebody please hire me in Idaho.
Yeah, right.
Well, I don't know if we have any listeners for Hardscape Huddle in Idaho, but there's a couple in Saskatchewan, Canada, which is, I think, just north to you, maybe a little west or east.
Yeah. I've worked with a couple Canadian companies. They're fun to work with. I've been to Canada a couple times, which is always fun. Super nice people. But yeah, I mean, with the technology today, like hiring a local company to do your marketing is it's not as good, because you're going to run into some territorial stuff, and I could work with anybody all over the country and accomplish the same job. And so, yeah, with what we're doing right now, we're free to work with anybody.
Okay. So how does a company from New Jersey work with you? How do we sign up? Is there a size of a company that you like to work with, or it doesn't even matter?
So when we started, we were mainly running Facebook ad stuff. That requires a substantial kind of investment. So you want to target a company that's probably doing 350 to 400 a year. at its lowest, because they're going to have that investment. Now what we've evolved into is what we say is we want to have something for everybody. So we have different things now that we do that can help you in wherever you're at. If you're a brand new company, we have consulting packages or whatever. We have, website SEO stuff that's going to be way more cost effective. That's actually going to get you on the map, quite literally, right? Stuff like that. And so usually a lot of our stuff has been through social media outreach. I do a lot of cold outreach through social media. We set up calls. I jump on, usually learn about their goals, what they like, what they're looking for. Really what I'm looking for is, hey, where are you guys at? What are your goals, within the next year or two? And let me give you a strategy that I think is going to be most beneficial for you. And so that's our current process right now, is really that discovery call to learn about them, to figure out what they're wanting, and then putting together a strategy for them and presenting that to them on a Zoom call.
What does a company expect to spend with you as far as off of their net? Is it 10%? Is it 30%?
So what we tell, rule of thumb in marketing, it depends who you are, and it depends kind of what your business, what stage your business is. Most companies that are in what we'll call growth mode, you want to be probably about 10% of rev, right? On your marketing. Now that might seem high, but the return of that is a lot, right? And so, we talk to a lot of people that are trying to go from 700 to a mil, right? And that's gonna require an extra 300,000 in revenue next year. So you're gonna have to generate quite a few leads, right? And so on the ad spend side, and this is kind of a rule of thumb with anybody doing marketing, you're in this space, we've found the most significant returns to be between $1,000 and $2,000 a month if you're doing paid ads on the ad spend side of things, right? And that's just to run them through Facebook or whatever, which is mainly what we do. And I would tell that to anybody running their own or working with anybody else. That's kind of what you're going to want to spend on that end.
Facebook, Instagram, or just Facebook?
Facebook, Instagram. So Meta ads will cover both
Yep.
on the same platform. Yes.
So we have a lot of guys that are six-figure, companies. They're one-man show, but they don't do a lot of, as a matter of fact, they don't have any social media. What is their first step? And where do they go? Say there's, their return customers or their word of mouth customers aren't generating enough leads, and all of a sudden they want to get into the, social media. Where do they go, and how do they start, going through that process?
And mind you, these guys are very hesitant because they hear social media, and
they've been doing it this way for 20 years. They don't want to change,
Totally. Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is education. And it's one of my I think it's why we're successful, is because we educate a ton, and we work with a ton of those guys that are, one-man shows, and they're like, I've been doing newspapers for 20 years. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm like, who reads the newspaper, man? Right. But
I don't even know. Do we even have a newspaper? Is the Asbury Park Press still printing? I don't think they are.
Yeah. So for example, like that, right? In magazines, and I'm just like, there's better ways to do this, guys. And people that do door hangers are like, I throw door hangers away. Right. And so, there's better strategies. But I would say if somebody had zero marketing, zero online presence, nothing, and they wanted to get into that, they want to create a social media page. It's free, right? Create it on Facebook, create an Instagram, for sure on there. Make sure you have a listing on Google. You can create a Google business profile for free. Doesn't cost anything, and you can start getting reviews on there. That stuff is essential. If you don't have a budget and you just want to like dip your toe into the water, you need to make sure that stuff's set up first. That's not going to yield a crazy return, but at least it gets you an online presence and it's out there. So if somebody were to Google Hardscape Huddle, they'd at least find you, right?
To your point right there, even if you just get yourself set up on social media and start making posts and being consistent with it. I mean, consistency is key when it comes to something like this.
100%.
I mean, I just look at, wife and I want to go out to dinner. We want to try a new place. I look it up on Google. I'm looking at these names. First thing we do is we go to an Instagram. And what do they have? And you're looking at photos, and that's what's going to be appealing to go to that restaurant. So it works in the same industry, right? You have 3 contractors. You look up on Google in your area. You find those 3 contractors. You look them up on Facebook or Instagram. You look at the photos that they're posting, and a lot of that's going to sway your decision on who you're going to call, who you're going to choose. And I don't think, some people I think do realize that, and they'll post, but it's the consistency of getting the high quality photos and what that's actually going to do for your business.
For sure. Yeah. And I think too, we talk about saturation, and like, there's so many companies that do this, all over the country. And so what sets you apart, even something as little as that being consistent? If I go onto somebody's page and I'm like, you haven't posted in 4 months, right? And then I go on to their competitor and they post every day. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna go with those guys, right? Or at least give them the first shot. So just that alone, that costs $0, right, to do that. So yeah, like 100%. That's probably where I'd go first with that whole thing. If I didn't want to spend a single dime, I'd start there.
I think some of this stems back to, though, is they've got to be willing and
Yeah.
have the know-how to do it. And I think where you fit into a lot of these companies would be that what you guys are both saying, consistency. Everybody's consistent this time of year here in New Jersey because there's not much going on. We're pushing salt, or we're pushing snow right now and salting. But come June and July, some beach towns here have a no work order after Labor Day. So Labor Day to Memorial Day, or Memorial Day to Labor Day, sorry. They can't work on the beach communities. So there's a big push up until those dates. And some days these guys will work 7 days a week, 10, 14-hour days. So the consistency doesn't just slow down, it stops.
Yeah, burnout's real. Education's key, like I said, and our thing is like we've developed things like playbooks and social media calendars and stuff like that. Like we just give them to people and like, hey, if you could follow this, you'll be successful, right? Or at least at this point, just be consistent following this. And we try not to set like you need to post every day. It's like let's just start with 3 times a week, right? Post a picture. You're at lunch or whatever. Like just pull up a picture that you did and post it on social. It's not crazy hard, but they have to be willing to do it with anything in this. Like if we're doing marketing for somebody and they're not willing to call the leads, then they're not going to be successful in it either.
So now if somebody's investing the 10% of their annual revenue and they're spending it with you, which we hope they are, what kind of results can they expect? Obviously, there's no guarantees. They've got to
Sure.
be willing to, like you said, go to the leads and close the jobs.
What we see generally, and we kind of, again, the hard part is figuring out where they're at and what the process needs to look like. And sometimes that return is slower, but it's more so, hey, we're planning out for 2 years from now. This is the foundation you need now. So for example, if I talk to somebody who has, wants to start marketing, but their website's just really bad. They're ranked very low on Google. We're going to start with web SEO. It's more cost effective. It's cheaper for them budget wise, and they'll start to yield some return. Now the problem, it's cheaper. It's going to take longer with web SEO. That's with that. I'd start there, and then I would start to, we call it pour fuel on the fire with paid ads. That's really how you start to get volume in. But if you start to get volume in and you don't have a good foundation with your web SEO stuff, you're going to not maximize the potential of what you're doing on the paid side. So we want to start there for sure. But result wise, like most of our clients that are doing paid ads with us, and mind you, this is probably the last 2 years before, and I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing right now to kind of take that to the next level. But most of our clients that have been with us for about a year or more are doing over 500,000 with the ads in that single year. We've had multiple clients do 750 plus. A couple have touched 7 figures in a year with paid ads, right?
Of growth.
Of growth, just from paid ads.
Wow.
And so obviously those are the huge success stories. What we usually say is, okay, you're doing 350, you want to get to, we could probably get you to 600 with paid ads on, 250 on top of what you're currently doing, which is a pretty substantial growth in 1 year. Now I will say those clients are like top of their game. They're on top of leads. Like they're doing stuff the right way, which we've done stuff in the past, few months to kind of close that gap for the clients that aren't doing, I would say, like top 2% of people. And we could talk about that a little bit of what we're doing there. But usually if you're investing, like the results are going to show. Paid ads work. Web SEO works. Like it's been proven time and time again. It's really just, you got to believe that it's going to work. And, on our end, we got to deliver and show you that it's working.
I think Aiden touched on it before, is a lot of our customer base at Staff of Stone is geared towards word of mouth. You move on from the first house and you buy your second home, and then you're still going to use that guy because his work was really good. But we're seeing a changeover in the housing markets here to the point of, we get a migration out of Connecticut and New York and things like that. So those people are losing their following because a lot of the boomers are moving out to Florida and where it's warmer. So you're not getting that referral work.
And even too, to speak to that, as I talk to people all the time, I go, okay, tell me how big your word of mouth circle is. And maybe it's 50 people, whatever, which is solid, right? And I go, how big's your town? And it's like 10,000 people. I'm like, look at how many people don't know who you even are, right? And so like word of mouth is great
That's a
until it's
great
not.
point.
And you could close some of that with like truck wraps and stuff and physical marketing to get your name out there. But at the end of the day, like Facebook ads and paid ads push to a ton of people in that area very quickly. And so, and the other problem with word of mouth is what? It's like you do a job for Joe down the street, and Joe's going to tell his neighbor that you did it for this price, and now you're stuck at that price, and you could have no room to grow in margin. And I see a lot of people get stuck at bad margins when they can't grow because they're relying on word of mouth.
I mean, you even look at, right? If I have someone come over for, family come over for Thanksgiving, and everyone's standing on the back patio, and then they're asking who it is, and I have 20 family members, right? One may be interested, and that's what you're someone's hoping and praying on word of mouth, but that person's also, those people in the word of mouth got to be willing to want that same project or be ready for it, I should say.
Yeah, and people that have been in business a long time operate off word of mouth. Like that's just naturally going to happen. I find a big gap in like the people that have been in business 4 or 5, even 10 years. Like they don't have that network yet, and so pushing into that. But it's also like, okay, your word of mouth network is 50 people. Like, why don't we go do 10 jobs for people that don't know you, and now it grows tenfold, right? Because it just multiplies and compounds at that point. And so there's no real downside to growing that. Like we don't want to go away from word of mouth. We want to add to it.
Right. So it all ties in together. You got to start with a strong website so that people find you on Facebook or Instagram, and then they Google you, and it all ties back around. We did a podcast last season. I think it was with Kevin Moat. He talked about, search engine optimization and then SEM. And then we had a podcast with Paver Pete and Ryan from TechoBlock, and he even touched on it. He's a technical fella. He writes a lot of different install specs for Techo and things like that. And he even touched on that. It all has to tie together. Some guys use co-op dollars to get those door hangers for just walk around the next 10 houses and maybe hang
Totally.
something on a door. So shouldn't be your primary way. If I'm understanding what you're saying correctly, that shouldn't be your primary way. That should just be another advertising tool.
Yeah, it should be what you do. It should be, this is the process of when we go to a house, we're going to knock 10 doors or we're going to hang 10 doors. We're going to put a yard sign up. Like that stuff shouldn't be your primary. It should just be part of the process. How to get more volume of that so you can do more houses and put more signs up is advertising, right? SEO is like this whole other world of organic lead flow and wanting to be available when people find you. Like the studies show that if you're not top 3 ranker, like you might as well not even be doing anything. Like the further you are listed down on Google, like people don't go that far down
Right.
when they're searching for stuff. And so like that's big on the SEO side. Definitely. We shifted our approach from year 1 doing just Facebook ads to, all right, why isn't this maximizing? And the answer was website SEO. Like that has to be the foundation of what we're doing.
It's basically, take advantage of everything that you have available to you. Right? Once you take advantage of everything that you have available to you, that's once you check all the boxes, that's when your business starts to take off. But when you leave a box unchecked, the job's not done, more or less.
100%. Yeah, I have like I said, I have a medical background. How I say this is like SEO website is like the heart, right? Like it pumps everything. It goes through there. Paid ads are more of like the muscle that's going to bring that in, right? But it has to go back to the heart, right? And it has to supplement that. And so, like I said, we won't even start paid ads usually if somebody doesn't have a good website that's optimized and SEO going. Like it just doesn't make sense. You're wasting money.
Now, Tyler, it seems you guys are offering, maybe it's a little bit newer on your end, but once a guy gets a lead, sometimes it's a 50-50 or maybe even a 25-75, close to not close that deal. And it seems like you guys are offering, tools and tips and tricks on how to close that deal and, different sales approaches and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we have everything from like sales, just sales training and obviously we've been doing this in this space for a long time in Meta. And so we know what kind of client comes or what kind of lead comes through and we know how to close those leads. So we'll offer some of that stuff. But what we've really done is we've looked at, year after year going, okay, this is our process. We're getting good results, but we can still do better, right? And one thing we talked about is like guys either not willing or don't have time to do certain things. Like, you guys are busy. Like, I get it. And so I can't sit here and be like, well, you had 20 leads and you didn't even do anything with them. Like, that's just not good business on our part. And so we got to look at how can we make this better. And so what we've really focused on now is leveraging automations and leveraging AI in this space to do initial contact, to book calls. Because there's this spot between, we can generate a ton of lead flow, but there's still this area from lead coming in from wherever it is to the contractor converting into a call or site visit or whatever that is. There's still that time frame in between there that we were really struggling with contractors with. And we saw that that's where we were losing the most money with clients, was in that. It could be 5-minute period. It could be a 5-month period, right? The top contractors that I'm saying that were doing like 7 figures, they were so good at follow-up. They were so good in these processes that they took full advantage of that. But what we realize is that's like 5% of people we work with, honestly. Like, we need to be good enough for the 95% in the middle of that so for them to still get the same results. So we've been leveraging a lot of automation and AI. Basically, lead comes in, how do we help you book the next step here without you even having to touch it? And so leveraging, AI chatbots to communicate with the leads via text message, right? To book that call. So now you just got to show up to the call, do your discovery call, go out to your site visit and close the job, right? And then even using things within the sales process, like when an estimate's submitted, contractors leave a ton of money on the table after the estimate is submitted, right? And I could look at a lot of my clients' pipeline right now, and there's like $250,000 sitting in there from estimates submitted, right? And I can go, well, you need to follow up with them. The fact is they're probably not going to do it. And so how do we help with that? So we've developed automations. After 48 hours, we're going to send support messages to those people, right? So not let things fall through the cracks. And so that's how we recoup a lot of that money within the process. And then even now we're going to, after the process, what's really important after you finish a job: reviews and referrals, right? And so reviews are huge for SEO and Google, 5-star reviews. And so building automations out that you don't have to touch these. When you finish a job and you put them in the right section on the CRM, it's going to send them a text message to try to get a 4 or 5-star review from them, right? When they fill out a 4 or 5-star review, they're going to get a referral request, and we're trying to grow that word of mouth network. And so now we're helping from generating the lead flow to booking that next step to helping within the sales process to even after the job's done. How do we maximize that opportunity?
So Aiden and I took a sales class this year, and shout out to Alex Goldfein as he taught us something about call approaches and things like that. And you just touched on it as well. As number one, you've got to do the follow up, and we do have contractors that just don't follow up with people, right? But what Alex was talking about is exactly what you said. And it applies to the supply business. It applies to that roofing contractor, that whoever. Just do the follow up and don't forget about him after you present him that estimate. And what a lot of contractors think is, well, I didn't hear back, so that means I'm not out of the game. Yeah, but you're also not staying in front of that person. And if you're not staying in front of that person, then they do forget about you, or they move on to that guy who's in the top 3 of Google. And what Alex was teaching us was to do that follow up and find out where they sit. Just be in front of that person. Like you said, I think you said 48 hours.
48 hours is what we do standard. Yep.
Right. But most people don't even want to make that call because that rejection is personal. They get to hear, well, your bid was too high, or they get to hear that. Where if they never call, they're always in the game. And that's not the right approach, especially if you're sinking 10% of your net income into marketing.
We deal with, obviously, a consistent base of contractors that come in, and we hear a lot of the guys bidding on the same jobs. And it's crazy to hear, though. You could have 2 guys that do both amazing work, but one is closing at a rate that's nearly 100%, it feels like. And then you could have one guy that closes at 20%. And then they're, one's happy that he keeps getting jobs and he's booking out. And then the one is questioning on why. And the why always ends up on the customer coming in, and they're, saying who they're going with. And, how'd you, decide with to go with that person, and then it ends up being, oh well, the other person never got back to me, or they scheduled a meeting to meet me at my house, never showed up, and the follow-up is just never there, which to Kyle's point, I mean, this is coming from my own opinion and my side, I rather it in a sales world, they always say, you know, your next best sale is, well, your best sale is your next sale, right? So you got to take that rejection, move on, and then get to the next one. You can't just sit there and ponder, because then you're going to take all those estimates, wait for all of them to get back to you, say that you have 5 jobs lined up. Next, you know, all those 5 people are going to go with someone else, and you're left in the dust.
Yeah, and I think there's a few things there, and that's a really good point. Is one, and I take this into coaching a lot too, is like you got to figure out why. Like, why aren't you winning these jobs, and fix that immediately. So if that's follow up, you got to be better at follow up. One of the big things we teach people in sales is how people like to be talked to today. Like, we're in a trust recession, what we call it. Like, people want to be face to face with people. So we do a lot of videos and stuff like that, but the points of friction in sales are a lot of times is when you're presenting that quote, like that's sticker shock, like that's a lot of money a lot of times. And so what a lot of people do is they send an email, right? And they wait for it to come back. Like, that's a really bad way to sell a high ticket, item. So we're finding a lot of success is telling people, take the extra hour, go actually present that in person to the people if they're close enough. If they're not, get on Zoom and present that to them, right? And so they can answer questions right there. You can address that. Usually they'll close the deal right on the thing. And so a lot of people don't do that, to be honest. Like 90% of people I talk to when I talk about their client acquisition process, they're like, we send an email, and I'm like, change this one thing and you'll do way better.
Can you imagine a car dealership, right? You're there to buy $100,000 car, and then they say, you know what, go home and I'll shoot you an email of how much it's going to cost, and then you could come back the next day or something. Like, that just
I just don't know where we got this. Like, the top sales people in the world for stuff do face-to-face sales. They do video sales. Like, I don't understand where we got this. We need to email quotes out kind of thing. And I think, where it started was COVID, whereas like I can email anything and get $30,000 job. And that those habits have really been bad, and they've continued now to where you actually have to be able to sell now in the market that we're in, and you're not doing it. And so points of friction, you definitely need to go in person. The follow-up's got to be really, really key, but to the point, like, it's not. And so our job is develop a system to make that way easier on you.
Tyler, but you mentioned earlier about the bottom 2 to 5%, and how you're helping those people as well. Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, as far as, people that are just really bad at like doing business and follow-ups and stuff like that, in my
Not
opinion.
necessarily. So again, we started this because this podcast, because there are some guys out there who are very, very good in the field. And
Yeah.
to your point earlier, they just don't have the time or don't know how to be that salesman. So how are you helping those individuals?
Yeah, so we do consulting, and I do a lot of consulting on sales stuff. My downfall is I don't have a hardscape background, right? And so who's going to hire me to tell them how to do some of that stuff on that end, right? I can teach you about sales, I can teach you about client management, I can teach you about being a business owner and stuff like that. We've actually brought on contractors to be consultants for other contractors now. And so the bottom guys, we do a lot of like that hourly consulting where it's like getting the business set up. Like, this is how you need to be a business owner, because there is 0 point to starting marketing if you don't have that stuff set. Like, you're going to burn a lot of money trying to figure that out when you don't, again, have that foundation. And so those bottom guys, we're helping with a lot of that stuff. We give a ton of stuff away for free. I do a video every Monday. I do a call in our school group where, I'm giving strategies away, and I'm telling people, giving them, education behind certain things that they can take and put into their
And
own
is that
business.
a podcast you're hosting or a YouTube channel?
It's a weekly like Q&A call where we do like a live training. The last couple we've talked about pipeline management and building automations and stuff like that. And we'll cover everything within business. We talked about SEO week 1. But really what we want is, if you don't hire us, but you could take this and it helps you, like, that's all we really care about. The biggest reward for me has been a couple people have been like, I've watched your videos, I've taken it and put it in our business, and we made money. And I'm like, that's awesome. Right. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. And that's the approach we take. I think a lot of people in marketing take a shotgun approach to marketing where they just try to sell this, whatever it is, to people. And it's very quick and it's pushy. And what I tell a lot of people, and I just had this conversation today with somebody, was we're not in the physical product space where we're selling you a software. Like, we're in the relationship space. Like, we're partners in this. And so we have to sell differently in this space. And it's almost the same with contractors. Like, you're almost in a relationship with that homeowner. For us, the approach is just completely different. It's education based first. We're going to make sure you have all the information you need, and we're going to give you our suggestion to what we think will help you get to where you want to get to. And at that point, we'll answer anything that helps you get to that decision.
So now a contractor from New Jersey hires your team. You're relying on that contractor, I'm assuming, to give you photos and things like that, correct?
Yep. So we have an onboarding process. And again, this used to be, we tried to go the automated route with it, and then figured out like contractors just don't get back to you. And like, we're like, why isn't this working? So we've gone everything in call now again. And so we do an onboarding call. We'll get access to all your ad accounts. We'll get the media we need from you. We'll give suggestions on, hey, we need these videos perform really well. We need these type of videos. Go film them. If you need help getting somebody to film for you, we're glad to help you with that. And so we'll get everything handled on like a 30-minute onboarding call. And then the contractor is pretty much hands off after that, except for the sales process, right? As far as the marketing side, we handle all of it on our end. And we communicate to them, hey, this is the direction we're going. We like to pitch it as like fractional CMO kind of deal. And that's like top level of where we want to get to. We have a couple companies where we run all their marketing. We call ourselves a fractional CMO for them, where that hat's completely off. We come to them with strategies and they're like, green light, go for it. Cool. And so that's really what we want to do is when we're running your marketing, we want you to take that hat completely off so you can use that time to better your business.
Now, did I understand you earlier? Are you fielding the calls and the leads that come in, and then you're dispersing them to that contractor?
Yeah. So the leads come in, let's just say through a Facebook lead form. We'll take that lead in our system. We'll utilize our AI chatbot to book a call. Right. And so that bot is basically going to try to book a call at all costs. Like, that's how I say it. And it's not like super pushy to where we're sending like 10 follow-ups a day, but over the course of, 2-3 weeks, like, we want to continue to try to book that call. So for example, we had one the other day and I was just looking at it, where the chatbot was like, hey, can we book a call for next week between these hours? And they're like, yeah, I should be around from 9 to 10. And I was demoing it for somebody, and I told somebody, usually this is where the contractor would stop. They'd write down 9 to 10 Thursday, we'll call them. Right. And the chatbot basically was like, no, it's not good enough. Like, let's nail a call in and confirm this. And so it'll do it until you actually give them the action that they want. And so that's the benefit of what we're doing. So yeah, we're taking the leads and we're basically saying, what's the next step? That's what the bot's like. That's what our process is going to do for you. We're going to get you that next step. And the benefit of using and leveraging AI in this space is that it doesn't have to eat, it doesn't have to sleep, it doesn't go on vacation, it doesn't whine, it doesn't have emotion.
Always shows up to work.
Yep,
It shows up whenever you want it to show up, and it does the job it's supposed to do. Like, to your point, like, contractors have emotion, man. Like, people have emotion. Like, they're not going to want to follow up 5 times, even though they know they're supposed to. Like, they're like, I don't want to do that. It's pushy. And I'm like, okay, don't do it. The bot's going to do it for you, and you'll make money doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so,
plus it frees you up if you think about it. I mean, yes, 100%. You're spending money up front with you, but it frees you up to either stay on that job site longer or what have you, and finish that project to go get your final check. Right. It's following up throughout the day when you're working in the field.
Yeah. So 2 examples I give when I demo that to a lot of people is, ideally we want to book a call in like 5-6 minutes. And we have a ton of examples where it's like, hits the guy up in 30 seconds after they submit, they book a call in like 2 minutes. Great. Right. What happens to the 50% that doesn't happen for? Right. And this is how we go from like 3 out of 10 conversions to like 8 out of 10, is because of that follow-up process. And so 2 examples that I have are the guy that takes 3 weeks to book in for a call. Right. And you don't even touch it. So think about, for 3 weeks time, how much time that would take you just on one lead to do the follow-up, to sit down, to do that properly as a human, right? As a business owner in the field, probably wearing multiple hats, as a father, as a husband, whatever, right? Think about all that time for one lead. Now multiply it by 20, because you probably have 20 leads coming through, right? That's a lot of time that it's going to take, right? And so you're getting all that time back to do what you need to be doing, right? So that's one example. The second one is, when I demoed this for somebody right around Christmas, our contractor took a vacation. He was gone. He was like, don't bother me. Ads don't stop, right? When that's happening, he still wants lead flow. And so what happens if you're gone on vacation, and you don't have a system like that, like you're not contacting those leads, right? And they're falling through the cracks. The bot's booking
On to the
calls.
next, on to the next.
The bot's booking calls as you're doing it around Christmas. Like we booked a call on New Year's Eve with somebody. And like that's just the reality of how we're utilizing this right now, is that it's giving you all that time to do that. So our contractor can go take a vacation and turn his phone off, and it'll be completely fine.
Yeah, that's outrageous. And then obviously you can dictate the schedule of those calls and things like that.
That was my question as well. Yeah, can you dictate, when that bot is pushing for a specific time, or, say you go, from 12 to 1, you got a doctor's appointment. You can't book a call that, prior in advance, of course.
Yeah. So it integrates with the calendar, right? Most people should be using calendars if you're a business owner. One, it holds you accountable. So we like to hey, it's going to integrate with your calendar, and like, well, I don't update it. I'm like, start updating it, right? And so that's part of like the accountability part. And I'm very like blunt when I talk to contractors. So if I sound a little blunt there, that's just how I talk to people. So but yeah, it'll integrate with your calendar, and it'll book the times that the bot will be able to access the calendar and see, hey, Kyle's got 10 to 3 available today. Let's try to push for a call between 10 and 3. Or Thursday. And so, yeah, they have to update their calendar a little bit. And I had a guy today going like, well, what if I want to like spend time at night and I don't like doing some of that stuff and I don't want that? And I was like, what are your office hours? You're out of the field 70% of the time. You already told me this, right? So what are you doing in the office that's 70% of the time? What are those hours? Start to get organized. Between 8 and 12, I'm in the office. I could take calls between then. Block off the rest of your calendar, right? Most people can take a call one time, like out of 5 days, they could probably fit that in. So it is going to access and integrate with the calendar and pull from that calendar. Yeah.
I think you touched on something really important right there, is proficiency. Get a calendar, be organized, run a legit business. And that's what we find in this business guys get away from, right? They created a business so that they had a job for themselves. And we're trying to get out of that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too is understanding people's strengths and developing things that are going to fill the gaps in their weaknesses, right? And so in contracting space, that's communication like 95% of the time. Like you said, I think you hit it on the head with most people became business owners for the allure of what they see, right? And social media, and it's the downside of social media is these kids posting or these people posting their cars and vacations and stuff, and it's like, oh, I could do that if I build a landscape business, right? And it's like, yeah, it's not really how it works. But what you're building for is time freedom, time to like make your own schedule, spend more time with your family and stuff like that. And so we really pitch to that of, our thing is automate your business, get back your family time. Like that's what we say to people.
Yeah, there's a difference between working in your business and on your business.
100%.
And also
100%.
what you're saying is like to get more time for your family. It's funny, like, I mean, we've seen 2 guys around the same age start their business at the same time, right? One has been persistent, posting on social media, pulling out ads, following up with all his leads, being consistent with all that. And then another guy who has not been as consistent, still does great work, but not as consistent with all of the social media and all of that. And the one guy that has grown faster and has established more time to be with his family and do the things that he wants. And you think it's the total opposite, where I'm going to slack off, or I don't want to say slack off, but not do what I should be doing right now because I need more time for myself. Where in reality, if you just push, you're going to get to that point where, okay, now I got a team around me. I'm subbing out all my marketing. I can have time with my family and still generate money at the same time.
Yeah. Here's the one piece that nobody talks about, and I've seen it a bunch of times recently, and I've said it a bunch. Everybody weighs the risk of doing something, whether that's being consistent or spending money. Nobody weighs the risk of not doing it, right? And so we talk a lot about, well, what happens if you don't do this? Are you really going to get to 650? Like, no. Okay, then what are you doing, right? Like, why is this a conversation? You should be doing this. And it's the same thing. It's like oftentimes the people that take action and do things end up further ahead than the people that don't. and maybe they're at the same level for a year or two, spending that time in that grind, but this guy's still at this level for 5 more years and this guy's not, because he invested his time, his money, whatever that is. And so we see that all the time. The people that invest in their marketing end up doing better. And the people that don't.
I like what you just said there as far as, did anybody ever weigh the risk of not taking advantage of this or not calling on those leads from your suppliers?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great. Now,
I-
let me ask you this question,
Yeah.
and you alluded to this. There's thousands of companies out there doing exactly what you're doing. What makes you a more likely candidate for contractors to choose fast break media, or digital media versus somebody else?
Yeah. I think that the first answer I would say is most marketing agencies, if you're talking about traditional marketing agencies, their goal is to get lead gen, right? It's to get lead flow. And they kind of just stop there. It's like, our job is to generate you 50, you've seen those ads, like, we'll get you 40,
Yeah.
50 leads or you don't pay, like, whatever. I don't like that stuff, but that's their job. Like, they stop there, right? They don't take time to understand your goals. Like, they are zeroed in on, we're selling this that's going to do this for you. And it's like, you might hit the right people with that, but the majority of your people have goals that are bigger than this. Like, the goal is never to generate leads. Like, that's not your goal as a business owner. Your goal is to spend more time with your family, right? That's the goal. And so when we go through a process, I want to ask you, what is the goal with this? Like, what does this do for your business? Like, what does this do? If you do hit this, 650 mark or whatever we're trying to hit, what does that do for you? And I want you to tell me, like, I want to spend more time with my family. Like, that allows us to go back and create a plan for you. You're going to be invested at that point. So we really take the time to get to know our clients. Like, we don't one call close people ever, usually, where we're just jumping on, pitching the service and whatever. We're going to take a 15, 20, 30-minute discovery call where we're asking about all this stuff. Like, we're really invested in your family, your life, like what those goals are outside of work. And then we're going to go back and create something custom for you. Like, obviously we do a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to pitch you Facebook ads if I don't think Facebook ads are going to get you to where you want to be right now. Right. And I think a lot of marketing companies have a shotgun approach, to where they'll do that. So that's one, is in the sales part. I think that sets us apart, where we really try to create those relationships with people. And it's a reason why our churn rate's a lot lower than most companies, right? Our clients stay on like 7 times more than the average in the industry. We want to create
Wow, that's
relationships.
really good. That's
It's
impressive.
huge. Yeah. I mean, most, I think the industry standard is like 3 to 4 months. It's usually the contract length of the first contract, that people usually do. We have 5 or 6 that I'm looking at my board right now that have been with us over a year. So people don't leave when they work with us because of that relationship. And it's not always, you have to have that relationship, because things are not always going to be great. Like, there's going to be times when our lead flow sucks and we're not performing our best, but if we're if we communicate proactively and we care about you, and like, you're going to trust us to figure that out. And so
What
that
what
helps.
is what is a contractor contract length of time, like the first one set up with you?
We do on the Facebook ad side, we do 4 months. And then we go month to month after that, or we'll negotiate a longer deal if you like it that much. So I would never book a 12-month deal right away. That doesn't make any sense. Both parties need to be able to feel that out, and for the proper range of investment. And I would never do month to month up front, because that's setting yourself up for failure. Because that's the other thing the marketing companies do, is they overpromise. Right. And it's like, we're going to do this. And then a month out, they don't do it and they churn. And their job is to go sell 10 more of that next month. And this is where contractors get angry and they feel burned. And they come to me and they're like, well, my last marketing company did this and I'm just burnt out. I'm like, I hear that every single day. And so we're not going to do that. And so that's one of the main things. And I think the second thing is going past the part of lead gen. Like I was speaking to before with our system, our job is not just to generate the leads. We call ourselves a client acquisition system, not a lead generation system. So we're helping on the back end to acquire more clients, throughout that process. And so I think those are the two things that set us apart, is one, that sales and that relationship, and then two, using this as not lead gen, but client acquisition, and how we position ourselves.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
I think a lot of guys have trouble making a plan to begin with. The fact that you guys, sit there and you can help them structure a true plan based on what their goals are, whether it be in the business or outside of the business, say with their family or whatever. I think that's, big time, because a lot of those big, companies like, Staff of Stone deals with a couple, marketing companies, and they're a little bit, I shouldn't say bigger. That's a bad term, but you know, a lot of them aren't on a personal level like you guys are, you know, and actually, you know, help lay out a plan. And hey, this, if you do this, this will help you there. And you know, if you go this route, it'll help you in, you know, in a different direction. I think that's you know, pretty impressive that you guys do.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same thing with selling, you know, an outdoor living
Yep.
space. Like if you have two contractors, one goes in and wants to sell this, you know, paver patio and they don't know why they're selling, and the other one goes in and be like, what do you actually want this paver patio for?
Right.
Right. And they're like, well, we want to host more parties next year. Cool. This is going to be the best material that you're going to use for function. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it's the same thing with that. Like, that guy's going to get the job over this guy 95% of the time, even if
They're
he's
selling the vision.
$10,000 higher.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they're selling
Yeah.
the vision and the experience
Exactly.
rather than just the
Yeah.
product. Yep.
And I posted that the other day. I said, you want to sell more patios? Stop selling patios, sell visions.
Yep.
Like that was my post for the day. And it was
Yep.
like, that's what we do, is like, we're not selling marketing. We're selling you spending more time with your family. And there's a roadmap to that. Our job is to develop that roadmap for you.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's on them to follow the roadmap.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, we're in a partnership. We're going to hold up our end. We're going to do our job. You got to be all in it with us. If you're not, like, do not pay me a dime. Like, I don't want, and not that I don't want to work with you, but like I don't want to waste your money or your time, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't want you to spend $8,000 with me for 4 months and waste your money because you're not willing to do this. And so we turn people away all the time. That's just like, it's not a good fit because of X, Y, and Z. And like, and then they come back the next year and they're ready to roll and we work with them. And so, yeah, I mean, it's on them
And
to a
that was going to
point.
be my next question, Tyler, is
Yeah.
do you fire customers, you know, so to speak?
We hate it. We have before, early on more so than now, because when we were younger in a business, we didn't take all those early steps to really get to know people, to really understand the goals, and to set proper expectation. And then that was one of the downfalls of our business, is we were just selling and trying to make money. And there's a lot of issues with that, but one of them was like, yeah, expectation setting and goal setting wasn't a top priority, and so we weren't aligned with our contractors, and they wouldn't be doing follow-ups, and we'd be getting mad they weren't doing follow-ups, and then that relationship was just not great. And so we have fired contractors before. We haven't fired one in probably 2 years, because our process is locked in now, and we just won't. Frankly, we won't take you if we're not 100%, you know, sure that this is going to work for you.
And you said customer retention is what did you say? Double what the
It's like 7 times what the industry standard is, honestly.
that's
Uh,
fantastic.
yeah, so if the industry standard is 3 months, you know, we're keeping people average of 20 plus months. So, it's almost 2 years per client,
Yeah.
and we've had clients be with us from the very start, when we started this thing. And, you know, obviously there's always gonna be churn in there, but we pride ourselves on retention. That way I don't have to sell as much. Like, I don't have to go sell 5 units every month when I retain 5 of them, right?
Yeah, yeah. Now let's just say, so we do have some customers, and I'm sure there's other suppliers that'll tune into this episode from across the country that are saying that's all well and good if you're trying to get those customers that have 2,000 a month to spend on marketing. What about the guys, and maybe you did allude to it earlier, that want you to kind of do some marketing, maybe not run as many ads, but can only spend 500 a month? Is it,
Yeah.
do you have a package where you'll handle some of it?
So here's what I'll say is, you guys tell me. Um, Most contractors deal with people pretty regularly, leads, right?
Hmm.
Organic, word of mouth, whatever. One thing that people don't do is they don't keep lead lists, and they don't organize lead lists. But you tell me. I just talked to somebody the other day. It was like, I don't really have the budget for it. I was like, put the initial payment on for the month. We'll get everything built out and started. Send me your lead list, and we'll do an SMS campaign to every one of those numbers. I guarantee you we're going to make the money that's going to cover the rest of your marketing. Like that, if I send a text message to 500 people, right, you're going to get 3 jobs out of that. It's without a doubt. Like, I've done it before. And I've never run one of those without getting a job out of it. And so often it's like, here's the plan. Again, we have to create a roadmap. If it's not within your budget, when you really want to do it, like, either figure out how to get the money, or this is what we're going to do. And so today it was, hey, put the initial down, send me your lead list of 200. We're going to send a text message campaign out. I guarantee you're probably going to get 2 or 3 jobs from that. That's going to cover the rest of your marketing for the 6 months that we're doing SEO. And so we utilize SMS campaigns right off the bat, like every single time. So I always tell people, you've been in business 5 years. Send me the last 3 years of your leads that you've talked to. We're going to send a text message campaign out day one, to try to drum up some work.
No, that's so simple. Most guys wouldn't have, I wouldn't have thought of
Yeah, and so that's one of our big strategies, honestly, is, hey, you don't have the money right now, but you really want to do it. Let's figure out how to get you the money.
it. Right. And then will your marketing campaign target specific zip codes or audiences or what have
Yeah, so our marketing campaign is highly detailed and optimized, which means we're going to test. The problem that I see with people running their own marketing and their own ads, or using a company that's just not really well versed in that niche or industry, is they kind of throw out one template and they hope that it sticks, and it might stick, and they might make good money off it, but every ad campaign is going to fatigue at some point. And if you don't have a foundation of what worked or why it worked, the next one you throw out is not going to work, and you're going to be like, what the heck, right? And so we have what's called a rapid testing system within our process on Facebook. Well, essentially the first 3 weeks, we're going to dial in your audience, we're going to dial in their messaging, and we're going to dial in your creative, basically what speaks to your ideal client the best, right? And then when we figure that out and we have a winning campaign, we're going to double down on it, and we're going to create more like that, right? And so the goal is, hey, those first couple of weeks, the expectation is you're going to get lead flow. They might not be the best. The lead costs are going to be a little high. As we go, that's going to come down, and the lead flow is going to get better. And so, yeah, we're testing to optimize all that stuff. The hard part about running ads is optimization, and if you don't have somebody running them that's not knowledgeable, you're not going to get it.
I know you got to get to basketball here very shortly.
I got a few minutes.
So tell me, what else did we not ask you that the audience should know?
I think the one big thing with people is they tend to shy away from investing because they don't know enough. They don't have the information, right? And so when I'm scared about something and I can't make a decision, is because I don't know enough about it. And the stigma around it is that if I get a call on you, you're going to pitch me on something, right? You're going to pitch me, and I don't want to be on a sales call. Like, I hate them too. Like, I answer at the door now when somebody knocks because I want to hear them sell, and I'm a weird guy like that now. Um, but most people don't want to be in a sales conversation. And so I'll say, like, reach out. Like, our goal is not to pitch you right away. Our goal is to give you information and understand what that is. We will only pitch people if we think it makes sense for them. Otherwise, we're going to guide you on what to do next. And so we've done that with a ton of people. Like, hey, this isn't a really good fit where you're at right now. I think you're going to get more bang for your buck doing this, right? So, for example, I talked to a guy yesterday. We were on a discovery call, and he was like, the conversation got more to the commercial side. We don't do a ton of commercial. We do more resi side, right? And so I was like, this isn't probably going to be the best fit for you on our side, but this is what I would do to get more commercial leads. And so still leaving them with value. But I think, yeah, don't let like the fear of like that part get in the way of you making a decision, or at least taking that first step. Because I don't care who you are, what company you are, like, you need some form of marketing. The day and age we're in right now, if you're not utilizing digital marketing, like, you're falling behind rapidly.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you. And those guys are a lot younger than I. They're on Instagram all the time, probably too much during work hours. But you know, they are constantly showing me pictures of contractors that look at this project, and we most likely supplied it. It's consistency we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay, don't be afraid to invest, and also think about what you're going to lose if you don't invest.
Yeah.
I think that was my biggest takeaway from today, is that was a very good point. But you also touched on something, I wanted to circle back to it,
Sure.
is that word of mouth. And now you're locked into, that net income on that one particular project, because they know what you charged Mr. Smith. And now
Mhm.
it's a word of mouth, and now you're semi locked into that price. That was a very good point.
Yeah, it's something especially with people that when we diagnose, like, they have a margins issue, and then we're like, they're all word of mouth. I'm like, you're never going to get out of this issue if you continue to do word of mouth. And it's the other thing why I don't like to book people one of the people's goals is, I want to be booked out for a year. And I was like, that's cool, right? But if your margins suck and you're booked out for a year, you're screwed for a year, right?
Yeah.
So you gotta take things in stride and figure out, like, what they actually need. But yeah, I think that Yeah, there's a lot to it, and the landscape changes every day. Like, no pun intended. Like, landscape of marketing changes every single day. From when I started this thing to just 3 years, like 2.5 years later, it's completely different. Like, and we're finding things every day. We're like, freak, we got to do more voiceover ads and like leverage AI more. And it's like, dude, this is. So if you imagine somebody trying to figure this out on their own and run a hardscape business, it doesn't work.
And I want to point something out to Aiden and Gavin both is the interesting thing that we're implementing in one of our businesses, and you've already implemented, is you take the time to learn what your customer is looking for, what motivates them. Okay, so if we're the contractor, you're taking the time to talk to us in that initial sitting, and that's what we do, at Staff of Stone as well. We want to know what's motivating that contractor, what they're looking from their supplier, and not
Yeah.
many people do that. So I'm glad you pointed that out, that you do that.
Yeah, it just makes sense, right? Like, I don't know. The with how we live, like I said, we're in a trust recession. Like, people want to trust that you're going to do the right thing or the right job, and that there's 10 other people that are going to give you the same service. Like, how do you set
Mhm.
yourself apart from those 10 people? Like, make somebody trust you more. Like, it's
Sell the
not.
vision.
Yeah, it's the at the end of the day, it's the vision, and it's not being superficial. It's not that they want a patio; they want to host more parties, man. So go sell them something that's gonna make those parties the best parties, and then tell them, hey, invite me when you have the party. I want to check it out, right? Like,
How do you feel about posting pictures of designs, 3D designs, and then following up with a drone photo?
yeah, I think the more you post is better. Like, honestly, people like to see that stuff. I always, I always never understood. I had a basketball training business like 8 years ago, and I never understood the people that posted videos of their kids like working out and stuff. And I was like, I don't do that. I'm just in the gym working, right? And then I realized, like, kids like that. It doesn't matter. It's not about me,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
They like that. And so when I talk to contractors, like, well, I don't want to do it this way. And it's like, I don't really care. Your client wants it this way. You want the job, do it this way. Like, adapt to it. It's not about you.
Yep.
Right. No, that's a great point.
Yeah. So I think the more you can put out, the people, and you just got to learn what people like. Like, if you're getting a big response on putting 3D designs and drone photos out, put more of them. Double down on it.
How do people get a hold of you? How do the viewers in the audience here get a hold of you?
Yeah. So easiest couple ways. You can find me on Facebook if you have Facebook, on Instagram. Tyler Hoyt. You can find that pretty easily. My website is fastbreakdigitalmedia.com. And you can join my school group if you're a contractor. Definitely join my school group. It's free. We do weekly calls on there. We post a bunch of content. Like, honestly, it doesn't make sense not to. So that's called Double Down. You can get that link from me. It's Double Down 2 Extra Business in 2 years. On school, if you haven't heard of school, if you're listening, school is like the next wave. So if you haven't heard of AI, you probably haven't heard of school either. So
Yeah.
look into both of them and start to learn how to leverage some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then we'll put your your Instagram and all of that on the bottom of the screen for you later on.
Yeah,
Is that
perfect.
okay with you?
Yeah, perfect. And if like a lot of these contractors go to, Matt and H&A and stuff, and I try to get out to a lot of that stuff as well and integrate myself in the community. I'm in the Hardscape contractors group, and I'm pretty active in there if anybody's seen me in there. So the admins don't love that I post all that stuff in there, but it's okay. I try to help as many people,
It
but
brings value to the group, though.
they know. I know Colin and I know them, so we're all good in there. But yeah, like I said, our goal is education, and we're going to push that. So it's the reason for the school group and stuff like that. But yeah, happy to talk to anybody. We take the time to talk to anybody that wants more information. And like I said, we're not going to try to sell you on the first call. So don't be afraid to reach out and ask.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, we appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I really enjoyed being on. You guys, happy to come on again and give you guys some more information on whatever else you guys need. And if you guys need my help pushing, I have a lot of clients on the East Coast, so I'll be sure to cross promote, you guys as well at Staff of Stone. And
Yeah.
it's cool, man. I love what you guys are doing.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man.
Absolutely.
So I'm your host, Kyle Staffa. And again, thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Hardscape Huddle with Tyler Hoyt from Fast Break Digital Media. Find them on Instagram or Facebook. Thank you and have a good night.